You see, the world is not full of friends. It is full of reflections, mirrors that show you not who they are, but what they can take from you. And so it is wise to recognize those who stand in your life not as companions, but as ghosts, drifting in and out only when it serves them. Have you ever spoken to someone and felt like you weren't really there, as if your words passed through them like a breeze through an empty room? This is the essence of detachment, not the wise detachment of the enlightened, but the cold, hollow distance of someone who simply does not care about you. These people exist in a world where others are merely passing figures in their personal play. They do not see you as a full person, with thoughts, emotions, and experiences that matter. Instead, you are a utility, a background character in the grand narrative of their own self-importance. You'll notice it in small ways at first, a lack of eye contact when you speak, the way they nod absent-mindedly, their mind already drifting elsewhere, uninterested in the details of your life. They ask how you are, but not because they care about the answer, only because social customs demand the question. And if you dare to answer in anything more than a polite, "I'm fine," you'll see the shift. Their impatience grows, their responses become clipped. If your pain or joy does not serve them, they are already waiting for the moment they can redirect the conversation back to themselves. And then there's the deeper detachment, the kind that manifests in times of true need. When life tests you, when you find yourself in pain, lost, or uncertain, these people reveal their true nature. They may offer a few rehearsed words of sympathy, but when the time comes for real presence, for true support, they are nowhere to be found. They disappear into the fog of their own self-interest, conveniently too busy to check in, too preoccupied to return a message, too distant to offer a hand. But the most deceptive part of all this, they may not even realize they are doing it. Their detachment is not always cruel by design. Some people are simply incapable of forming deep, meaningful connections. Perhaps they have never known true attachment themselves. Perhaps they have spent their lives skimming the surface of relationships, never daring to dive into the depths. Whatever the reason, the result remains the same. They are present but absent, close yet unreachable, around but never truly with you. And so the question becomes, how long will you keep speaking to someone who is not listening? How much of yourself will you pour into a cup with no bottom? Because if you find yourself always chasing after their attention, trying to prove your worth, trying to matter to them, stop. Let them be. Let them drift. The greatest mistake is not in losing them, but in believing they were ever really there to begin with. There is a kind of conversation that feels like air, empty, weightless, meaningless. Words are spoken, smiles exchanged, but beneath it all there is nothing of substance. It is the illusion of connection without the reality of it, like drinking from a cup with no water. This is the essence of superficial interactions, the kind that leave you wondering if you were truly heard at all. Have you ever spoken to someone and felt that they weren't really listening, that their eyes were on you, but their mind was elsewhere? They nod, they hum in agreement, they throw in the occasional, "Wow, that's crazy," but there's no real engagement. They are simply waiting for their turn to speak, rehearsing their own thoughts while you share yours. And if you test this, if you say something unexpected, something deep, vulnerable, or unusual, you will see the mask slip. They won't respond with curiosity or thoughtfulness. Instead, they will steer the conversation back to safer, familiar ground where they can remain detached and unbothered. But the real telltale sign of a superficial person is how little they remember. You could share something meaningful, your passions, your struggles, your hopes, and the next time you see them, it's as if you never spoke those words at all. They'll ask you the same questions they did before, unaware that you've already answered them. It's not forgetfulness, it's indifference. They were never truly engaged in the first place. Superficial people thrive on small talk, not because they enjoy conversation, but because it requires nothing of them. They prefer the easy, fleeting exchanges, compliments without depth, laughter without sincerity, relationships without effort. They are comfortable in the shallow end of human connection, never daring to swim deeper. But what happens when you need something more? When you crave authenticity, real understanding, and a sense of being truly seen? You will find these people absent. Not physically, perhaps, but emotionally. They will not hold space for your grief, your excitement, or your truth. They will deflect, distract, or disengage, because anything deeper than the surface is too much work. And yet, they expect you to listen, to nod at their stories, to feed their ego, to be their audience. They do not seek conversation, they seek validation. And as long as you are willing to play that role, they will keep you around. But here's the question: why invest in a connection that does not nourish you? Why continue to speak when your words fall into an empty void? Real connection requires presence, effort, and care. And if someone is not willing to offer that, then they are not worth your time. Because in the end, a superficial relationship is like a beautifully wrapped gift box that is empty inside. It may look appealing, but once opened there is nothing there, and there never was. It is easy to be present in someone's life when the sun is shining, when laughter flows effortlessly, and when there is no weight to carry. Anyone can stand beside you when times are good, when there's celebration, success, and comfort. But the true measure of a person's care is revealed when the storm arrives, when life becomes messy, uncertain, painful. This is where absence speaks louder than words. Have you ever noticed how some people disappear the moment you need them most? They were there for the parties, the victories, the light-hearted conversations, but when struggle enters the picture, they become a ghost. Maybe they stop responding to your messages. Maybe they offer a quick, dismissive, "I'm sure things will work out," before changing the subject. Maybe they vanish entirely, too busy to check in, too uncomfortable to deal with your pain. And at first, you might make excuses for them. They must be busy. Maybe they don't know what to say. Maybe they think I want to be left alone. But then a pattern emerges. They are always absent when things get difficult. They never ask how you're doing when you're struggling. They are unwilling to sit with your sadness, your confusion, your pain, because for them relationships are meant to be effortless and fun. The moment effort is required, they retreat. But what does that say about their care for you? What does it mean when someone is only present in your life when things are easy? It means they were never truly invested in you as a person, only in the comfort and convenience that came with your presence. They enjoyed the version of you that made them feel good. But when life demanded something deeper, something real, they chose to step away rather than step up. Perhaps the most painful realization is that some people are never willing to hold space for you in your lowest moments. They want you to be strong, happy, and available, but they are unwilling to offer the same in return. And so, when you are drowning, they stand on the shore, watching, waiting for the moment you pull yourself back up so they can return, pretending they were there all along. But remember this: the people who disappear in your pain are not your people. True care, true love, and true friendship are not conditional. They do not exist only in the light, but also in the darkness. The ones who truly care will sit with you in silence when words fail. They will not rush you to be okay or turn away when your emotions become inconvenient. They will not fear your sadness, your struggle, your moments of weakness. So do not chase after those who leave when you need them most. Do not beg for the presence of those who only show up when it serves them. Instead, let their absence teach you a lesson. Value those who stay, those who check in, those who do not flinch at the weight of your burdens. Because in the end, it is not the ones who are loudest in your joy that matter. It is the ones who remain quiet but steadfast in your pain. Not all control is loud. Not all manipulation is obvious. Some of the most dangerous forms of influence are not delivered through shouting or threats, but through soft, carefully placed words, gentle guilt and quiet emotional strings that are pulled without you even realizing it. This is the art of subtle manipulation, the kind that creeps into your life disguised as concern, affection, or friendship, only to leave you questioning your own reality. You see, the most skilled manipulators do not demand, they suggest. They do not force, they nudge. And before you know it, you are acting in ways that serve them, making decisions that benefit them, all while believing it was your choice. Consider how they make you feel. Do you find yourself doubting your own instincts, apologizing when you've done nothing wrong, or feeling guilty for setting boundaries? That is no accident. A subtle manipulator operates in the shadows of your self-doubt. They plant seeds of guilt, making you feel as if you are selfish for prioritizing your own needs. They twist your kindness into obligation, making it seem as though you owe them your time, your energy, your loyalty. They disguise their control as care. They may say things like, "I just want what's best for you," but what's best always happens to align with what benefits them. "I would never do that to you," implying that you are being inconsiderate by making choices they don't approve of. "After everything I've done for you," turning past kindness into a debt you are now expected to repay. "I guess I'll just deal with it on my own." A passive-aggressive way to guilt you into doing what they want. These statements seem harmless, but their purpose is not to communicate, it is to control. They create invisible chains, making you feel as though stepping away from them would make you a bad person, and so you stay, you give in. You prioritize their needs over your own, not because you want to, but because the weight of their subtle influence makes you feel as though you have no other choice. And yet, if you pay attention, you will see the imbalance. A subtle manipulator rarely gives in return. They expect loyalty but do not offer it. They expect understanding but do not provide it. They want your time, your energy, your emotional labor. But when you need the same from them, suddenly they are too busy, too tired, too unavailable. The true mark of a manipulator is how they react when you resist. The moment you set a boundary, they make you feel guilty for it. The moment you stop prioritizing them, they accuse you of being cold, distant, or ungrateful. But here's the truth. A person who truly cares for you does not need to manipulate you into staying. They do not need to make you feel guilty to keep you close. Love, friendship, and genuine connection do not require control. So, what do? You recognize it. You see their tactics for what they are. You step back and ask yourself, is this relationship built on respect or on quiet coercion? And if you find that you are constantly exhausted, constantly feeling guilty, constantly giving more than you receive, then it may be time to walk away. Because here's the thing about subtle manipulators. They only have power as long as you allow them to. The moment you stop playing their game, the moment you refuse to be controlled by unspoken expectations and silent guilt, that is the moment they lose their hold over you. And that is the moment you reclaim yourself. A relationship, any relationship, whether friendship, family, or romance, should be like a dance. A natural rhythm of giving and receiving, of support flowing in both directions. But what happens when you are the only one moving? When you find yourself constantly stepping forward, reaching out, making the effort, while the other person stands still, taking but never giving. This is the painful reality of a relationship built on lack of reciprocity. At first you may not notice it. Giving feels good. It feels natural to be generous with your time, your energy, your kindness. You listen to their problems. You show up when they need help. You celebrate their successes as if they were your own. But slowly you begin to realize they do not do the same for you. When you need a listening ear, they are too busy. When you need support, they offer nothing but half-hearted words, if they respond at all. When you succeed, they are silent or indifferent, unwilling to celebrate your happiness the way you celebrated theirs. And if you bring it up, if you dare to express that you feel unappreciated or taken for granted, you are met with defensiveness, excuses, or even accusations of being too needy, too demanding, or too sensitive. But ask yourself, is it truly asking too much to expect mutual effort? To want a friend, a partner, a family member who gives as much as they take? A lack of reciprocity does not mean someone is outright cruel. No, that would be too obvious. Instead, it is far more insidious. It is the slow erosion of balance in a relationship, the subtle shifting of weight where one person is always carrying more. It is not about occasional imbalances, because, of course, there will be times when one person needs more support than the other. That is natural. But when the imbalance becomes permanent, when you find yourself always being the giver while they remain the receiver, that is when the relationship becomes toxic. These people thrive on kindness. They rely on the fact that you are too good-hearted to pull away, too patient to demand more, too understanding to walk away. They know you will keep giving because that is who you are. And so, they do not feel the need to change. Why would they? They are benefiting from the arrangement. But here's the painful truth. No matter how much you give, it will never be enough for someone who only takes. So what can you do? You must recognize the pattern. Pay attention to how the relationship makes you feel. Do you feel energized and valued, or drained and neglected? Are you receiving even a fraction of what you give? Do they only reach out when they need something, or do they check in just to see how you are? And then, the hardest part, you must decide if you are willing to continue this one-sided dance. Because you deserve reciprocity. You deserve people who show up for you, who make an effort, who value your presence, not just for what you can do for them, but for who you are. It is not selfish to want mutual effort. It is not unreasonable to expect balance. And if someone makes you feel guilty for wanting those things, that is your clearest sign that they never intended to give them in the first place. So stop pouring yourself into people who do not pour back into you. Step away from relationships that leave you empty. Because true connections do not drain, they nourish. And the moment you stop giving endlessly to those who take without gratitude is the moment you begin to reclaim your own worth. Have you ever walked away from a conversation feeling completely exhausted, as if all the energy had been pulled from your body? Not because the conversation was deep or meaningful, but because it was one-sided, heavy, and draining. That is the effect of emotionally exhausting people. Those who do not just take from your time, but from your very spirit. There are people in this world who bring light into your life. Being around them leaves you feeling inspired, energized, or at the very least balanced. Then, there are those who seem to carry a cloud of negativity wherever they go. Every interaction with them feels like an emotional transaction where you are constantly withdrawing from your reserves to feed their endless needs while they give nothing back. Emotional drain does not happen all at once. It is slow, creeping, insidious. At first you may not even recognize it. Maybe you are simply being a good listener, offering support, being there for someone who seems to need it. But over time, you realize a pattern. Your relationship with this person is built entirely on their needs, their problems, their emotions. And your role? To absorb it all, to carry their weight, to act as an emotional landfill for their frustrations, anxieties, and insecurities. They always have a crisis, and when they don't, they find one. If things are going well, they will dig deep to find something wrong. They thrive in negativity, feeding on pity, sympathy, or validation. And you are their audience, their emotional sponge. At first you tell yourself you are helping, but helping implies resolution, an eventual light at the end of the tunnel. With these people, there is no resolution. There is only an endless loop of complaints, self-victimization, and dependency. If you give them advice, they won't take it. They aren't looking for solutions, only attention. If you try to redirect the conversation, they find a way to bring it back to themselves. If you are struggling and need support, they either dismiss your feelings or turn the conversation into how your struggles affect them. And here is the worst part. They do not even realize they are doing it. Emotional drainers do not see the energy they siphon from others. They see their emotions as the most important thing in the world, and they expect you to treat them the same way. But what about you? Who is there for you when you need support? Who listens when you are the one who is tired, overwhelmed, or in pain? With emotionally draining people, the answer is often no one, because they do not have the capacity or the willingness to give back what they take. So, what can you do? The first step is awareness. Pay attention to how you feel after interacting with someone. Do you feel lighter or heavier? Do you feel emotionally fulfilled or depleted? Does this person ever ask how you are doing, and if so, do they genuinely care, or is it just a polite prelude to their own stories? And then, the hardest part, setting boundaries. Because emotional drainers do not stop unless they are forced to. You must decide how much of your energy you are willing to give and where to draw the line. That might mean limiting your interactions, refusing to engage in endless negative conversations, or even walking away from the relationship entirely. But here's what you must remember. Your energy is precious. You do not exist to be someone's emotional dumping ground. You are not obligated to carry the weight of others at the expense of your own well-being. The right people will uplift you, not drain you. They will support you, not exhaust you. And when you find yourself constantly feeling empty around someone, that is your sign it is time to step away, reclaim your peace, and protect your emotional reserves. Because at the end of the day, you deserve relationships that nourish, not relationships that deplete.